So the season of Shattering has been out for around a couple weeks now, and I wanted to talk about my thoughts on the season so far and things I noticed that some people might not have noticed, I guess. First of all, I wanted to start out by saying that I actually quite like this season. In this video, I'm going to be talking about a lot of the problems I had with this update, so I wanted to start it off on a positive note. I like the direction that TGC was aiming for with this season. I love that there is a seasonal hub where you can interact with the spirits. At the same time, I miss being able to unlock items in the constellation menu though. I love the scary vibes they were going for with this season and the spooky and beautiful cosmetics that come with it. I don't think that there's a single cosmetic in this season that I don't want. The capes look amazing, the hair and accessories look amazing. I am in love with the little shoulder crab you can get. That is the first thing I bought. His name is Wilfred and I love him. Anyways, overall, I like that they were changing things up for the season and I kind of like what they were doing. I will say, however, that my initial impressions of the season were that it seemed a little incomplete. I dove headfirst into the season and there was very little instruction on what exactly you needed to do compared to the other seasons. I had no clue what I was doing going into this, and I ended up having to look up videos from the beta players guiding me on what was even going on. The shard events were definitely confusing at first. The locations changed sometimes throughout the day, making it more confusing, and the locations for the Switch and mobile were different. I think this was something that the Sky team was working on and it wasn't supposed to happen. But I think that makes it even weirder that it did happen in the first place. Anyways, the rant segment's over. Now I want to talk about the things I've noticed so far going into this season and update. If anyone else noticed anything interesting, let's share information in the comments. A lot of information videos helpfully give information on what times the shard events happen on. The shard events start 1.5 hours after the daily reset and after they occur every 2 hours. I personally think that they should occur a bit more often because if you miss the shard event even just by a little, you'll have to wait a whole 2 more hours for it to occur again. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I've noticed that shard events occur slightly more randomly and often sooner than an hour and a half after reset. I live in Mountain Standard Time, which means I'm exactly 1 hour ahead of the time zone Sky uses for resets. This means that for the first shard event, will occur at 2:30 instead of 1:30 for me, so I'll usually get on at 2 for my dailies. I've noticed that sometimes when I start playing, the shard events already started before 2:30, so it can actually start sooner than the set time. I think the shard events more so start around 10 minutes after 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, but it will also last for 40 to 50 minutes. You can join the game an hour and 30 minutes after the reset and still have around 10 minutes to find and complete the shard event, but you can also join sooner at around an hour and 15 minutes and have half an hour to do the shard event. This is at least what I've experienced so far. I also wanted to say that if you're doing shard events, the difficulty varies. For me personally, the shard events in Daylight Prairie, Hidden Forest, and Valley of Triumph are all pretty easy so far, as usually there are very few, if not any, corrupted crabs in those areas. Also, black shard events are much easier than red shard events. The only time I've noticed so far that there are corrupted crabs in black shard events is in Golden Wasteland, where the shard events are most difficult. It's easiest to zoom out and angle your camera so you have an aerial view of your surroundings. And so that the corrupted crabs don't pounce on you unexpectedly, I usually lure them all far away from the area I'm working on before I get started. I simply call out to them and wait for them to charge towards me before dodging. Usually when they charge towards you, they go pretty far, so you usually don't have to worry about them for a while after that. Even when I'm working alone, I find that all of the shard events so far are doable, even without props. As long as you're careful and the area has easy access to any light, like lanterns or butterflies, they're all definitely doable. Speaking of butterflies, am I the only one who noticed that they've scattered more butterflies throughout all the realms? I think that's a great addition, honestly. I appreciate that. Anyways, the servers will usually merge, so you'll end up doing a shard event with at least one other person at any time, so I wouldn't worry too much about having to do them on our own. I also wanted to talk about what I noticed regarding the new crawling mode your Skykid goes into when they lose their light. A lot of people are against the crawling mode because it makes you slow and it's more difficult to recover your light. I'll be honest, I agree that the crawling mode is more realistic and adds more depth and beauty to the game, but just like this, it's too frustrating. You go incredibly slow. Areas like Eden were hard enough with strong winds and other obstacles, but now it'll be even harder to get through it. I feel bad for the new players who are going to have a much harder time going through Eden with these changes, which make it so bringing a friend is a lot more essential than before. As a solo player who doesn't have any profs to help with this problem, I'm kind of nervous for it too. Anyways, I Wanted to mention that to make up for this difficulty change, I think the winged lights that you lose take longer to disappear than before. I lost my light during a shard event once and was crawling around helplessly for like a really long time before the winged lights disappeared. I actually ended up only losing one, partly because there was someone else there to help me, but also because they took longer to disappear. I didn't time it or anything, so I don't know how long we have, but I think it's longer than before. I would say that depending where you lose your lights and how far away they like fly from you, if you jump into action right away, you might be able to recover a decent amount, if not most of them back. This is kind of an optimistic prediction though. At this point, I've completed one of the season spirit things, so I wanted to reflect on the prices from what I remember. At the beginning of the tree, it is like really expensive, but the prices go down slightly after that. Each node is pretty expensive, but there are very few nodes, so it's basically the same as any other season regarding price. That's it on my thoughts on the season of Shattering. I'm curious on what they're going to do when the season ends. Will those areas and memories still be accessible? With the addition of the winged lights from this season of Shattering quests, I think some of the oldest players will be able to get their 12th cape levels very soon, so that must be exciting. A bit sad for me since I just caught up with 11, but it's fine.